let's review the FA Cup final. First of all, apologies for there being no let's preview for this one. Had some computer issues this afternoon, haven't been able to actually get it working. We're back up and running now after the game, and obviously it was a very, very, very good game. A game that meant two completely different things to both teams. Obviously, Antonio Conte's Chelsea were looking to get that little cherry on top of the big, massive cake they had in getting the Premier League. They were wanting the double. Arsenal, on the other hand, are wanting the trophy to save a little bit of pride, bit of dignity in a season that hasn't gone their way on all fronts. Champions League being, destroyed by Bayern Munich. The Premier League slipping away, everything like that. And this was probably one of those ones for Arsenal where it's like, let's restore some pride. Let's give the fans something to actually go away from this season with. Go away with a little bit of silverware, a bit more pride. And obviously this is let's review. We're not doing a preview. You know what the result is by now. And if you don't, it finished Arsenal 2, Chelsea 1. In a game that, the way I looked at this game when I'm looking at it, watching it, and I'm thinking, these two teams are almost playing like exact mirror opposites. Arsenal were playing like Chelsea, and Chelsea were playing a little bit like Arsenal. Not that Chelsea were particularly bad, but Arsenal were very, very good today. They were exceptional. And you also have to take into consideration the fact that they've had to bring in Mertesacker, who I think he'd not played many, many minutes until Gabriel had gone off injured in a previous match. I think it was against Everton, last one of the season. Hadn't played. I don't think he played all season. Massive call to bring someone like that in. And for me, the forward play was absolutely amazing. The forwards, obviously Sanchez and Ozil were on it today. Ramsey was especially on it. Giroud, when he came on, put himself about very well. Welbeck had a very good game as well. Did everything but score a goal. Mertesacker and David Ospina were my two men of the match, because what they did in that defence and what they did in the box was unbelievable, because there were times when Chelsea were getting forward eventually and they were having chances after chances. And yes, Ospina was probably at fault for Chelsea getting an equaliser in the first place. Should have had a bit of a stronger hand to it, but in the end, Jesus Christ, the combination of those two, never mind the fact of Rob Holding coming in, someone who only cost the club 1.5 million, after you've got whatever's going on with Mustafi, you've got Gabriel out as well, Koscielny was obviously banned. You got this lad coming in who's a very young lad next to Mertesacker. They looked like an experienced pair. They looked very, very, very good. But I'm getting ahead of myself a little bit because I haven't even talked about the first goal and the controversy that was there as well, in which I think when you go and look at like how BT Sport broke it down anyway, looking at how the offside rule actually played into Arsenal's hands, because Ramsey didn't actually go and touch the ball and he didn't actually impede the goalkeeper's vision in any way or in much of a way. It was a perfectly legible goal in terms of the offside rule. Now there's this one that Robbie Savage and all that lot were talking about, saying it's a handball and that. They seem to be missing the fact that I can't remember who it was in front of Sanchez, but he flicked the ball up into his, as if it was coming up to his face. Now my own personal instinct is, if something's coming towards my face, I'm probably going to go like that or something to try and not make that thing hit my face, whatever it is, whether it's a football, whatever, could be anything. My first instinct is protect my face. That's my first instinct. So they're talking about, he's got his hands in an unnatural position. He was midway through a jump, so he might have had a bit of elevation here anyway, and then the ball gets flicked up into his face. And I'm certainly not defending Alexis Sanchez or anything like that for, having handball giving a handball, basically. I'm not defending them. I'm not an Arsenal fan. But I'm looking at it objectively and I'm thinking, that ball got flicked up to him. He's probably thinking, I'm just going to, my hands are up here anyway. I'm just going to protect my face or whatever. I don't know. But to me, it's just a point where they're just like, it's a controversial goal. And I was like, it depends how you look at it. I didn't see anything wrong with it. I originally thought it was offside. And I thought, wow, they've got away with one there. But when it was actually broken down, you think, all right, letter of the law, fine. It's a perfectly legible goal. Absolutely fine, not a problem. But Arsenal, they came out. Obviously, that was like the first 5 minutes. They score a goal, and that's big. That sets a precedent for the rest of the game. Because Arsenal they were rampant. They came out the blocks absolutely like a bat over hell. And they just they just continued. They just continued. They were absolutely hammering Chelsea. They were bossing the possession, but they were also being a lot more physical than I've seen them be. They were, Diego Costa was starting to get frustrated again. He hasn't really shown that really frustrated side in a long, long time, but it was almost came out. There was times when it looked like he was going to absolutely chuck that ball somewhere. When I think he had a free kick or something go against him. I'm not entirely sure what was going on at that point, but yeah. Or he might have even been given offside. I'm not sure, but it looked like he was going to lose it at one point. But Arsenal did absolutely brilliantly. They really, really did. Now, obviously, when it gets into the second half, and you're looking at it and you're thinking, right, Chelsea have got to come out here and they've really got to do what Arsenal did in the first half. They've got to come out like a bat out of hell, and they just kind of, they were building a little bit. They were like building a bit more, like getting well more into the game. They were doing that in the first half anyway. Like near the end of the first half, they were starting to get much more creating opportunities and stuff like that, and trying to get Hazard on the ball and stuff like that as well. But it just wasn't really happening. I actually thought Pedro was playing better than Hazard today. That's just my personal opinion. I thought when Pedro got subbed later on in the game, I thought that I don't think I wouldn't have made that change, but that's just my personal opinion. I actually thought Pedro was, he's being a lot more threatening than Hazard was, but again, that's just my opinion. But what I didn't see coming was Victor Moses gets a yellow card. About 55 minutes or whatever it was, gets a yellow card. Not maybe 10 minutes later, maybe 10, 12 minutes later or something like that, dives in the box looking for a penalty. Gets done for simulation, and when it went back on the replays, and I'm looking at that and I'm thinking, oh, mate, like, that's, there's no contact. There's no real reason for you to be going down. You've looked for an easy way out instead of, yeah, you were getting surrounded in the box, but you've gone for the easy way out here to try and, deceive and get a penalty. You've ended up on the wrong side of it, and you got to look at it like, you look next year when they're doing this rule change of, if they will punish you and like banning you for like 2 games or something like that for diving. That's what they will do. Like, that's big. That's huge. You get done for simulation or whatever. I think it's another new retrospective action. You do that next season, knackered. Absolutely knackered. Some of these players are going to have a massive wake-up call in terms of, diving, stuff like that. And that's some Liverpool players as well. Some Liverpool players, I'm not just trying to say, oh, it's Chelsea players, this, that, and the other, blah, blah, blah. Some Liverpool players do it, and they do it, sometimes quite well, sometimes not so well. But I thought that's just such an idiotic thing to go and do in a cup final. You're 1-0 down. You're getting into like nearly the 70th minute and that, and you still haven't scored. You're starting to build into the game, but you still haven't got anywhere. So he gets sent off on just about the 70th minute. 76th minute comes. Cometh the man, cometh the hour. Diego Costa puts it in the back of the net, and they're 1-1. And you're thinking, 10-man Chelsea, they're going to do this. They could do this because they were starting to look like, yeah, they were starting to build up a bit more pressure, starting to put more pressure on Arsenal all over the pitch, starting to get more balls through into like the likes of Diego Costa and that anyway. They were starting to make a bit more of an impact in the final third, and you're thinking, wow, this is what champions do, isn't it? This is what champions do. They build into the game. They put themselves in a bit of, they might be on the back foot a little bit earlier on in the game, but they put themselves in a place where they can be dominant, and now they've just got to go and take the opportunity. And that's what I was thinking. I'm thinking, right, you look at the celebrations of the Chelsea players and that when they scored, that you were thinking, seen this all before all season. There's a reason why they won 30 odd games in the Premier League. I think it was actually 30. So I mean, they broke a Premier League record with that, and you're thinking, business as usual. Not the case, I'm afraid. No, because straight after that, pretty much, let's have a look at my notes. So pretty much straight after that goal went in, Danny Welbeck gets replaced by Olivier Giroud. Giroud then assists Aaron Ramsey with what was a beautiful assist and an excellent header, 2-1. Literally 3 minutes afterwards. 2-1 to Arsenal. I'm thinking, okay, they've shell-shocked me here because I'm thinking Chelsea have scored. Arsenal are probably going to come out of this one and think maybe they've deflated a little bit. Season hasn't gone their way. Sometimes in games where they have gone up and then they've been scored against, or they've been scored against, their heads drop. Didn't happen. In fact, if anything, more chances just kept coming their way. I thought Hector Bellerin was good going forward. I just thought this could have actually been... They could have scored so many goals. They really could have scored so many goals in this game. In the first half alone, Arsenal could have been absolutely well and clear. They could have been 3-0 up. No problem after about maybe 35 minutes. They could have been 3-0 up. That's how good that they were playing. They weren't clinical. They weren't clinical enough in that respect, but they were absolutely dominant. Once it goes to 2-1, you sort of see the Chelsea players drop a little bit. And that was a bit of a, is this a precursor to, you know, I'm not saying that it's going to happen again, where they've won the title and then the next season they're going to go and struggle again. But they've been in party mode since they won the Premier League. They must have been. No matter how much they've said last week when they got the Premier League trophy and all that lot, that they were saying they're going to have to stay concentrating, they're going to have to be absolutely on it, they're going to have to try and forget that they won the Premier League and that this is just another trophy that they're going to be wanting to go out and win. Didn't happen. And it did look like they took far too long to get into the game in the first place. When they got into the game, they threw it away. They threw it away far too easily. That being said, Arsenal played ridiculously well. This was an Arsenal performance that harked back to when they were absolutely on form. They had like a 15-game unbeaten run where they were just winning games. They were winning games week in, week out, earlier in the season. And this is what this looked like. And this is still the potential that Arsenal have. They've got very talented players in every position. They really do. Monreal might be the only one that I question on that, but he's got heart and desire, which, if you don't necessarily have high talent levels, it can get you through a hell of a lot of situations. And he's found himself, you know, being in front of... I know Gibbs has his injury problems and stuff like that, but I think on his day, when he's fit, Gibbs is a better left back. He's much more athletic in my opinion, and he can get up and down the pitch a bit better, but Monreal has been doing very well in my opinion. They put a centre-back pair in that haven't paired at all, ever. I don't think they have anyway. They might have paired a little bit when they played against Everton, but Mertesacker and Holding were, you know, there's no criticism whatsoever. They were brilliant. They were absolutely brilliant. That leadership that Mertesacker showed, brilliant, absolutely brilliant. And I think it's woken maybe a couple of people up thinking, you know, people are saying Mertesacker might have been on his way out and stuff like that, but I think after that performance, I think you've got to question, yeah, he's 32 and he's got no pace, but he as people have said, week in, week out, he reads that game so well. He reads the game very, very well, so that he doesn't necessarily have to use pace or anything like that whatsoever. Anyway, it's 2-1. It gets to the end of the game. It's full time. Obviously, massive elation for the Arsenal fans and stuff like that as well, and Arsene Wenger as well, who obviously now, this is it. The final has been played. They've got the trophy. It's another trophy for Arsenal. Where do they go from here? That's not a video for me to make, I don't think. Not being an Arsenal fan, I don't want to disrespect Arsenal by making a video that might be misinformed in some ways, because all I can take is, yeah, I could go and watch Arsenal Fan TV. I could go and read articles and stuff like that about Arsenal and Arsene Wenger and stuff like this. It's not my club, to be honest with you. And it's one of those. But they didn't get their top four like they would probably want as their minimum requirement for the season would have been Champions League spot. Chelsea, they've won the Premier League. Would have been good for them to get the double, I imagine. I think Conte himself will be probably furious that they didn't get the double. You've got to see what happens from here now. They're in a very strong position. They're back in the Champions League next year. They've won. They're the champions in the Premier League. Not winning the FA Cup isn't the biggest thing in the world, but I think he would have loved to have done. You know, pick up 2 trophies in his first season would have been unbelievable for any manager. It really, really would have been. Let me know what your thoughts of the game were in the comments below. Let me know who your man of the match was, or men of the match, as I had men of the match in Mertesacker and Ospina. You might have different players, or a different player indeed. But who was your most disappointing player in this game? For me, I think it was Eden Hazard. I just didn't think he had a very good game whatsoever. He had one of those games, it kind of looked like a game that was... it could have been played under Jose Mourinho in his season where he got sacked. It really could have been. He just seemed to go missing a little bit. Did a couple of nice things on the ball, but not enough. Not enough to, you know, he's that type of player. He's a very, very high level player that should be able to contribute to dragging them over the line when they need it, and they just didn't do it. He didn't do it. They didn't perform very well. That's my personal opinion. Leave your comments in the comments boxes below. If you've enjoyed the video, please drop a like on it. Subscribe if you're new around here. Check out a Champions League preview that I will be doing. Stick out. I don't even know what I'm saying anymore. Keep an eye out for the Champions League preview video that I'll be making in the next week or so. Should be a good one. I'm looking forward to it. I hope you guys are too. Thanks for watching, as always, and I'll catch you later.